Hello, nobody for now. Of course, it's a beautiful day. People want to be outside, that's true. And I'm also preparing my boat for the trip tomorrow. So I was already thinking to maybe postpone this stream again, but a promise is a promise. So, Tinder and Hinge. Interesting subject. So, let's say Tinder was something I tried when I lived in UK already. When I moved there, and after a while, all my female friends and coworkers were saying, you should try dating. You're smart. You're this. You're good looking. Blah blah blah. So, and I tried Tinder. I must say that after I think like 3 or 4 dates, the very last one at that point was with a strange chick. One night we spent together, and then later on, shortly after, I started getting a lot of messages, and then quite short, in a very short time, it was all really strange and abusive. So I had to involve the police to stop her from harassing me. So that was funny. But okay, now that means that so that was 2012, 2013. So over a decade, I never. After that, I did not use apps, Tinder apps. Well, I did here in Amsterdam, yeah. So that's kind of how I weirdly, through another relationship, met my now ex-wife. But yeah, Tinder now. Uh, I think I used it about 10 days. I actually managed to connect on a second or third day with a woman around my age, I think. Seemed really like honest, cute, all this stuff, loves nature, all of these kind of things. Because compared to all other flesh that is there, she seemed intelligent and all this stuff, and she was really straightforward about the fact that she is quite anxious. And I'm like, okay, well, thanks for telling me. Let's see, we should probably try and meet and then take it from there and see if we can click and be friends at least, or whatever happens. Yeah? But unfortunately, either her anxiety or whatever, I would say probably other reasons as well, she did not meet once, and then the second time. But funny enough, which actually was the part that really surprised me. So we didn't meet, but she goes, "Oh yeah, my friend found the fact that you have an Instagram and you have YouTube." And I'm like, "Yeah, the kind of things I like to talk about personally, if possible, but no problem if you have any questions." To which kind of it followed in a context of like, you talk too negatively about people. I'm also negative, and I'm afraid you might drag me down. And I was a little bit taken aback, as in like, uh, yeah, if I talk about people that were shitty, I get it, but I'm not talking negatively about people. I'm just describing who they are and what they did and all this kind of stuff and what happened to me. But I did still like say, look, it's probably just a misunderstanding in terms of how we perceive things. So I'm okay with letting this one slide by. But if you want to have such kind of discussions, we should really meet in person because it's much more meaningful and valuable. Of course, nothing happens after that. So I'm like, after a few days, I definitely remove that contact because I don't want to be bothered with people's own problems and prejudices. So move along. And I was even feeling happy, like, I don't need to be with someone more than, I don't need that. I need my boundaries a lot more than that. And I felt really happy about the fact that, that's actually how it should be. Cool. So then I realized that Tinder really sucks. So as in application and everything, and the way people basically just look at each other. There's not much of a description. There's nothing you can do about it. And then I find this app called Hinge. And this is the funny one, like Hinge. And I would definitely rather go unhinged about it because as an application, quite well developed, loads of good functions and much better descriptions, and you have really a lot more creativity in terms of how you're going to present your profile. But I must say, when I was swiping and browsing through a large majority of these female profiles. Like, let's say the first things I obviously rejected was when they are describing how tall a man has to be. Okay, pass. Doesn't matter. I get it. If she's like 1 meter 85 centimeters, so that means quite taller than me and stuff, she wouldn't feel comfortable, whatever. But it's not really important because you don't know how you're gonna relate to someone and feel around them and talk to them and connect with them or not connect, regardless of how tall they are and all of these things. So yeah, it was a lot of, and then a lot of funny things is like almost everyone is suddenly spiritual, loves walking in nature, coffees, and what? I mean, it's kind of incredible how people are just hung up on the same types of patterns, like as in they're really trying to put something out which ultimately is not even relevant. You know, like, oh, you like going to festivals, or you like spending time in museums. Okay, it's kind of like part of information, but there's not no value about who you are and what you do in life and what you believe or anything like that that really makes someone connect with you. Either way, eventually a couple of profiles are that kind of those kind of profiles, deeper, more original, and they even match, so you get to talk to them, so it's fine. But you know, more or less, people that are too busy with their own lives, so I don't even understand why, for example, they're dating other than maybe hookups, which is definitely not my type. And then I actually landed a date, and it was great. Like, great conversation before, great conversation during the date. However, one of the things that really surprised me as we were there is like suddenly, totally casually, this lady pops pills and doesn't say much. Okay, takes a pill, blah, blah, blah. I get it. As we continue to walk and then discuss later, she does say, okay, I've got ADHD, I'm taking amphetamines for ADHD, and I'm processing inside my head. I've had symptoms of ADHD because of the CPTSD my whole life. And I definitely didn't want to land on the pills or any kind of medication for that stuff. Specifically, also because I knew that it's not really ADHD and that there's a lot more to it. And I was really intuitive about the fact that I just don't want to go down the route any kind of pills and misdiagnosis or anything like it, because it could go really badly wrong. Either way, the surprising part was, if we're trying to be honest, if we're trying to talk about relationships and stuff and get to know each other, I think that's something you should put up in front in terms of like, yeah, you know, what is your mental health, if you have any mental health issues and stuff. Like, it would be just as appreciated whether you have them or not. But the point is that you just casually during on a date pop pop the pills out and just take them and not even mention something. It was just like really hilarious stuff. Um, and yeah, I think because I kind of like was mindful of everything that's going on, let's say in and outside, inside of me and around me. So great conversation, great time. I would definitely love to meet her again and talk more. But then her response, I think even the same day or the next day, was like, there's nothing romantic and stuff. And okay, I can appreciate that, of course. Um, which at the end of the day, I wasn't really keen on that, because during our conversation she was mentioning that she either had or still has, a friend with benefits, a male friend with benefits. So yeah, it's kind of interesting when you're like trying to, let's say, it's not like a long time after my breakup, but I was thinking, I was alone basically for 10 years. I was not in a relationship as such. So that's why I decided I will try to meet some new people. It wasn't so much about dating, but because it's dating apps, it's like this kind of environment, and it was just really ridiculous. Like, you would go to a butcher shop and want to buy some meat. Yeah, so basically, the lesson from all this was like, I just rather stay single and or basically not be bothered. And this is what I've been doing even before in my life, but I guess that was more from insecurity itself than the way it is today. Like, what women want is like the ultimate top tier of people or men or whatever it is or whoever, where they themselves are pretty much on the average in terms of what they bring to the table. It's not about the looks, it's just about the attitude and the honesty and all of these kind of things, and also being, I don't know, prejudiced and judgmental and stuff like that. Hello, Bimal. So it was funny because it would be really nice to meet some new people, females and meeting male guys is not really a problem. You go and sit in a pub or coffee shop or somewhere and just strike a chat, and sooner or later you're gonna talk to someone. Or just sitting on a bench outside in a park and then maybe talking to an older lady is never a problem. But generally, like, the spectrum of dating is completely unattractive for the time being, because I don't know, I guess there's just a bit of detachment from reality from what I see from most people, men and women. Where am I from? I'm from Slovenia, bro. But I live in Netherlands. And you? Yeah, Starbright. I mean, dating is not bullshit. It's nice because I've had some nice dates in the past and stuff. But things have changed. Things have changed a lot, and people are. I think their expectations are a little bit odd. And then the people who are probably not falling for this crap are most commonly not using the dating apps, I guess. Yeah. Nepal, beautiful, man. Do you live in Nepal? So yeah, it was hilarious experience. So the one from the Tinder actually later on messaged me that it's interesting how much I post about narcissism or other stuff like that on Instagram, and then I blocked her. Well, I blocked you on WhatsApp because clearly, it's not interesting to talk to someone over phones and messages and stuff where they don't want to meet, and then actually immediately fall back to a prejudice because they don't understand a lot of things what I'm talking about. Um, so that was funny because I got like a week later I got a message request on Instagram, like as if the queue was not enough. I let you go and live your life. No need to harass me. Uh, so it was funny. So from now on, I'm probably one of those guys as well who chooses to be single because it seems to be a lot more self-respectful that way than try to show my face on these shitty dating apps, because it's just like feeding the same type of narcissistic behavior and toxic shit that comes from most people who hang on there. So yeah, it's really weird and funny. For me, it was funny because at the end of the day, deleting them both was really like, yeah, that was the best decision basically. The best part of dating apps was deleting them all. Um, so yeah, it was an interesting week a couple of weeks when it comes to that. Um, the other day, switching the subject to something else, like kids and protecting kids, because interesting enough, for when it comes to children, for what small reasons I've lost everything, and then a few days ago, here in the park where I am nearby, it was like something going on. So every day there was really like hundreds of kids with their parents and teachers and stuff walking around. So loads of people, a lot. And I see this father running after his daughter who basically just ran off a little bit too quick. And I see him running after her and then really aggressively grabbing her shoulders and shaking her. And these we're talking about 7, 8 years old child, and quite a strong dude, short but strong. And I'm observing the situation, and he kind of doesn't let her go immediately. He's very like, lets her go after a few seconds, and then stands in front of her in a very like aggressive bully stance, and then grabs her by the shoulder, really strong, like with fingers like this, and drags her over where he wanted to be. And I kind of slow down my pace, and I'm looking at him, and I tell him quietly enough so I didn't cause any rows there. Um, I tell him that from what I see and where I come from, we call that child abuse. And yeah, and his reaction was immediately saying "fuck you," and he tried to be a bit threatening, which didn't work. I basically just really smiled at him, just like now. And I said that it's probably not a wise idea to try and get humiliated in front of his daughter, and that I will call the police if he gets aggressive. Um, and what I did regret later on is that I didn't actually find some teachers or something from this whole organization and event immediately, because I found them a couple of minutes later, but it was too late to point him out and show them who that guy was, because they left already. They were on their way with this parade walking around. But I did tell the teachers that they need to kind of spread the word around, that if anybody is seeing this kind of behavior, they need to interact, they need to protect the child, they need to do something about it, because clearly the child doesn't know it's abusive. The father definitely doesn't know he's being abusive. And it sucked, because I saw the terror in the eyes of this little girl, and I just didn't feel alright. So I'm kind of glad that I intervened, because I saw in his eyes when I said, I think you need to think about getting some help. This is not good stuff you're doing to your kid, and just trying to threaten me was a really dumb idea, because you don't know what people are capable of. And yeah, it kind of gave him a little bit to think. I saw it in his eyes, but when people are like that with their kids, it kind of pisses me off. But I'm glad I didn't want to react to his aggressiveness with any kind of violence unless necessary. But yeah, it was a kind of a week, quite a few of weird things like that. Also, some old dude was trying to be, let's say, a little bit too smart for his own good, telling me stuff that is definitely not okay to say to me, but this is the kind of level when I understand. If you're so old and you really have nothing in your life, and you're continuously miserable and grumpy, yeah, pretty much it doesn't matter how much you know, how much you worked, and what you did in your life. If you don't want to learn how to respect people, none of that matters really. And you can hold on to it as much as you want. You're still a shitty person, and you will remain a shitty person. And this is the problem with people. They think that every experience and every hard work in life that they've done, and all the achievements that they have, and whatever, even if you have a lot of money and you're rich as hell, it doesn't really matter if you're like a person that doesn't know how to behave respectfully towards others. Then that's it. It doesn't matter what you have and what you did. It really doesn't. Because what it matters is how you make people feel. And I was really happy with myself, because the challenges I've had in the past weeks like this, including these dating apps and weird remarks from these women, which both of them then later got cancelled basically from my side. for the same reasons, because they don't get it. Um, yeah, it's just simple as like you gotta find your own tune or your own rhythm and just sing to it, sing to it and sing to yourself every day, humming silently, whatever it is. Because really, at the end of the day, the sound, the frequencies, and your own inner sound, so to speak, are the things that are actually healing the most. And that's what I found, because it was really interesting how, with just a simple, very, very simple beat, like shamanic drums and some humming like om or whatever like that, how much you can actually focus and heal yourself. It's just unbelievable, whether you listen to it or you just practice it yourself. And this is what really changed me after all these um, crappy experiences in the past few weeks. I've realized how well I've actually been in the moment when that happened, and particularly compassionate to the fact that people, as much as they are shitty, I did not go out of my usual way. Well, now I'm my usual self. Usually, well, before I was more combative, I would say, and then I would tell them the truth, what it is and what I think, straight in their face. But now I've learned to, that Buddhist approach, to think a few times what you're going to say, and if what you're going to say is good for the other person and good so that it benefits you and them, then yeah, certainly speak. If it's just bad, you need to really think about it, whether it's really, really necessary to speak that at all. And sometimes it's not. In this case, for example, this older dude, it's not necessary because he's too far in his life to influence him in a way that it would matter for him and to others around, because there's already quite a level of destruction around his own behavior that was done in years. So that cannot be undone. So for some people, it's probably really too late. And for those that it's not, they still need to be able to recognize and be able to realize that they need to help themselves and they need help. So if they cannot find the guidance alone at the beginning, obviously, it could be therapy, it could be, I don't know, faith, whatever it is, it's gonna help you. Or music, or dancing. For me, it's just walking, observing myself in and out. And yeah, definitely a few changes of the habits, like good sleeping, more water, um, practically no alcohol. If I drink once a week a bit of wine, and it's good. Um, so yeah, and food, of course. I'm trying to eat as much as I can every day, and not as much as I can, as much as I can afford, eating balanced food every day. I started eating breakfasts, which I never ate before in my life. So, in order to heal and change, you've got to take it all at once. It's not gonna be like, oh, I need to fix my head first and then the rest. No, it's pretty much working all together, body and mind. And I found psychiatrists also talking about that, which is very interesting, that what you intuitively know is right for you can be confirmed by other experts who are exploring the fields in a new progressive way. Um, and yeah, guys and ladies, when it comes to relationships and meeting each other and all of these things, um, uh, we gotta give each other like more space and more time and all of this stuff, that you even recognize whether this is going to be a friendship or a romantic relationship or something more. I mean, it's so, people nowadays are shooting off the hip so quick, and making judgments based on what they see on social media. Like, you can see me talk openly and honestly, but what you see is just a short clip of my life. What I am doing during the day, how I'm interacting with other people that I work with, or other people that work in the shops or restaurants and they're serving me and all of this stuff. How loud I snore when I sleep and all. I mean, all of these details are way more long term important for everyone than just, oh, you were talking some crap about some, I don't know, social services or your ex-wife on your social media. Well, yeah, maybe it wasn't about her, maybe it was about my pain, which I experienced through people like that. So, I, it's such a shame because you never know. It could work out, it could not. Some people are beautiful inside out, even though they have some work to do on themselves and figure out that, you know, relationships, they take time to build up, especially with people like myself when we've been through a lot, beaten down and all this stuff, and still we want to give love not just another chance but a full-on chance, like proper. Now that I've also realized the best lesson of this all was like what happens when you're in a toxic relationship, and never mind, because we all turn toxic in a toxic relationship if we don't get out. Everybody does. It's how it will affect you, how it affects your brain, and it's just natural, you know, to react and respond in ways that you know would never allow yourself. Why it's natural? Because that's traumatic brain. So, and then if you're like me, you have experienced a lot of trauma in childhood and it was complex and all this stuff and it was going on for a long time. It's a fight or flight mode for most of your life until you finally figure out that your hypersensitivity is a part of trauma response. Your hyperactivity is a part of trauma response. Your sometimes very strong mood swings are part of the trauma response, and people would think that you are bipolar or what you call now manic depression. Then what else you have? It's like PTSD symptoms all over the place. I mean, sometimes you can't really piece together, not that you can't remember, you remember stuff, but you just can't associate your emotions with the memories, or the other way around. You're just hyper emotional. You're really so over the place that your memories get confused, in a sense, like short-term memory. Then, you know, for me, example, I honestly am quite messy and stuff, but this is not because I'm lazy. It's just what actually all this shit does to your brain. So people need to understand that what after all of these things, you know, whether you have anxiety, whether you have depression and all these things, and you're in a relationship with someone who is not supportive and is not appreciative, they don't understand that in your lowest you need more care and more attention and more help, support and understanding than normal people in order to heal. So if you live with people or you have toxic friends or you have toxic work, because it's not just partners, of course, there's multifaceted relationships everywhere, but they affect us all just the same on a subconscious level. So then you go around, walk around, and you're basically continuously, at least for me, like a huge people pleaser and hyper empathetic person at the end, which was also just a bit of a coping mechanism, you know, always trying to figure out how other people feel so I can adapt to that instead of actually really asserting and strengthening my own boundaries and my own self in the world that surround me. So of course I didn't have this, nobody was teaching me enough, and I didn't have that as a young child, so I had to adopt these things as an adult. But I did a lot of mistakes because I considered my hypersensitivity and hyperactivity as superpowers, but in the end they both lead to a huge and massive burnout and codependency, of course. So the realization when I was 10 years in an intimate relationship and with children and all that stuff, that ultimately what I ended up loving, because the person I really loved, because of so much avoidance and so much hiding of who she is and where that comes from, I was basically loving an empty shell when it comes to that person. So what did I truly love was reflection and introjection of the best versions of myself that I saw in her, and of course also all the mistakes that I did being with her and reacting to her abuse. So I've learned to forgive myself already a long time ago, clearly. And then I also realized that I was loving myself in a very healthy and secure way all this time. So I had this sudden epiphany that I don't need to learn self love. It's already here and now. It's just we need to realize what happened to our lives and what happens, what is this dynamic in toxic relationships, because it can be codependent relationship, it can be relationship with a person that has a borderline personality disorder, it can be relationship with a narcissist or sociopath or whatever it is. I mean, there's so many different neurodivergent people. It can be an autistic person, it can be bipolar. I mean, it's all sorts of things. You never know. And then you have PTSD and CPTSD on top, which CPTSD is kind of like a melting pot of pretty much a lot of symptoms that resemble personality disorders. And it doesn't really make life impossible. It just makes it very different in terms of processing your own emotion and internalizing and integrating what happens, what did happen to you, and then what happens to you in real time. Pure example, I was sitting in a park and I saw really, I would say, with the smile included, the most beautiful, perfect woman I can imagine. And I could probably just walk up to her and start talking, but I was so stunned that I wasn't in a free state, but I just simply did not feel like getting up and talking to her because everything else that was going on in my head at that moment was really overwhelming. So there you go. That's how it works, really. It's not like you explode like a bomb because somebody points a finger at you. Far from it. It's really like poker face. And at that point, most people do not understand that there could be a lot going on inside the head. So it's kind of interesting, especially now when I finally found my peace and my own tune. Really finding your own kind of rhythm, something that just really puts you in that state of gratitude and happiness and love, and practicing that every day, you will find how we're all connected in life and how basically important it is that we show each other compassion and understanding, and that we see each other, that we hear each other, because each and every one of us carries some kind of burden and pain with us that we cannot really get rid of ourselves, but somebody else can point, look there, this little bit of dirt on you, can you clean it off? You see here, if you don't have a good look in the mirror, then somebody else has to tell you. And that's why we have friends, that's why we have communities and all of that stuff. Nobody heals completely on their own, but the work we do, inner work we do, is our responsibility, that's for sure. So having said that, I'm a very happy single man. Especially when I see what other boys are doing around when it comes to being toxic and cheating and all of that stuff. And girls. So, and yeah, there's a bit of sun left for me and warm weather. And then next 3 days I'm gonna try and travel a little bit with my boat again. So, thanks, Bimal Kunwar, for watching and commenting. Greetings to Nepal. I really hope that I could visit that country one day, but it's kind of like one of those not so likely things on my bucket list, but it's there because of the mountains and all that stuff. And yeah, thanks also Starbright for watching and your comments as usual. Thanks everyone else for the likes and watching. Have a nice rest of the Sunday. I wish you all a lot of peace and a lot of love and self-respect.